Thanks, Josh, for introducing me to the group, and thank you everyone for joining in. And today we'll be just glancing over what to look forward to when we're making any decisions in terms of our corn hybrids, both for grain and silage. I hope this is useful information for you and help you somewhat in making that decision. So. Yep. So before we start on the corn hybrid selection, I would just like to give a brief update on where we are at with the corn performance trials 2024. We had about 14 locations all around the state this year, and about 150 to 200 hybrids were registered. And I'm really happy that it was my first year with corn performance trials here at UW-Madison, and we have harvested all silage locations. The harvests went pretty smooth, and we were in a good range for the moisture, and the sample processing is in progress, and we will share the quality data with you all soon. In terms of the grain harvest, we are done with 2 locations out of 14. We are observing normal range of moisture levels, which means anywhere between 15 to 20%. And we did not observe very high levels of disease in our trials, except for one location, and that was our Hancock location at the Warwick County, and that's where our moisture levels were down as well, and our yields were also a little bit impacted, and rested on the a cusp of, I would say, 150 to 160 bushels per acre, as opposed to the second location, which was at Galesville, and we observed about more than 200 bushels per acre on average. So that's the brief update for the corn performance trials, and we will get you more detailed information soon on that, so that you have some hard data on your hand, and that would help you make a better decision going forward. When we look at corn hybrid, there are a number of things that we need to consider, primarily starting with the yield potential and consistency. It does not matter how well or how good your corn is until and unless it's giving you the yield you require. So identifying the yield potential of your region and the yield potential of your field is important, and it helps you go forward and make a decision in order to go for which side of the hybrids. Disease resistance is important with the new pests coming in, with weird and erratic weather patterns that we are having. We have transgenic traits that we need to look at, which provides us some inbuilt resistance against various pests. We also want to look at early season vigor and emergence, because this year as well, we had some issues with higher rains, and there were some delays in emergence, and sometimes we also had to replant. So early season vigor can help us assess those decisions as well. Moving forward, we also need to have a good stand, a crop which is not lodging easily, which is not green snapping, and also something that dries on time and is well within our budget in terms of the seed cost. So in the conversation today, I would be focusing on the most important ones, where we have things in our control a little bit more, which is analyzing the yield potential, looking at the disease resistance, transgenic traits, evaluating the grain dry down, and seed costs as well. So the first one with yield potential and consistency, and this one is somewhat related even with the later half of our crop, which is the dry down. So we need to determine the correct relative maturity, and it also helps us to determine the correct planting date. If we are lucky enough to get started on time, getting early to mid maturity hybrids can help us get a yield advantage. And with the Wisconsin, as I have been learning with my time here, we have a high range of relative maturities across the state. And this information with what relative maturities are faring well in what region would be a little bit better understood when we have the corn performance trial data from this year on hand. But it has been consistently observed from previous few years that staying within this range, going from north to south, has provided growers with uh, more consistent yield. Going for early maturing hybrids also helped you to make decisions with the early with replantings situations that may sometimes arise from excessive drought as it was in 2023 or excessive rain as it was in 2024. The next part that we look at for grain is primarily the grain quality, which is the test weight and kernel breakage susceptibility. A lot of seed companies provide the information on kernel breakage susceptibility. So going for a hybrid where the combine damage is as minimum as possible helps to retain our yield and also manage our profits well. In terms of silage, we look at longer maturity than grain. Typically, in terms of Wisconsin agriculture, it's 5 to 10 maturity days longer than corn. Secondly, we also look at the quality and yield perspective hand in hand. So there are a lot of options when you look for a silage crop. We can go for a dual hybrid, which actually enhances the flexibility for a grower, where you might have planted it with the silage crop in mind, but during the way there are certain issues with your equipment or time or anything, and then you can maybe switch on. However, when we look at the yield and quality, we have to look at the 4 quadrants, which are here on the chart that you can see on the screen. So for forage quality and dry yield, there is a bit of relationship that we need to look at. And the sweet spot that we want to hit is the 4th quadrant here, where we want a high tonnage and a higher quality crop, which sometimes is, or which most of the times is not always possible. So we try to, either stay in one of these quadrants, but closer to the average line so that we are not taking a hit in terms of our tonnage. And one where we definitely don't want to be is this quadrant. So for forage quality, we have various hybrids which come under BMR, but there have been, trade-offs between yield and quality in that terms. And there is some research that was done earlier in 2019 where the dry matter tonnage was observed to be the highest in dual hybrids, and they provided more flexibility as well, whereas the BMRs fared a little bit on the lower end. However, when we looked at the nutritive value, the highest digestive values for fiber were observed in BMR, and it also showed us lower fiber values. And over here, I've just presented NDFT for the sake of simplicity of this conversation. But you can definitely reach out to me on this topic more, and I have some really cool data to share. So therefore, if we rewind a little bit and bring our minds to the compromise between tonnage and yield in terms of silage corn, we are trying to hit that sweet spot where we are achieving a higher digestibility for the fiber, but not compromising our overall tonnage. And that can actually be possible when we're using, relative maturities, which are a little bit longer as opposed to our grain hybrids. And also, the management decisions over there becomes a little bit more flexible as opposed to just going for something which can only be harvested as a silage crop. Going forward, we also need to look at the transgenic traits, and these are the things which actually, rank up your cost for the seed, and also determine how you are managing your crop. For instance, herbicide resistance is one of the uh, most important management decisions. That weed management is one of the most important management decisions that you have to make, and herbicide resistance makes it a lot more easier. So using something which has a label for glyphosate resistance or liberty linked or even 2,4-D resistance is very beneficial. But I would always have a cautionary tale on that be aware of what your seed is, be careful while reading the label before putting the herbicide in. I've burnt way too many times to ignore that information now. The other important transgenic traits that we need to look at are from the perspective of insect pest management, and they're primarily BT traits for few of these insects, which are very common in the case of Wisconsin. Starting with corn rootworm, it is one of the highly damaging insects in our environment. So incorporating the BT traits which can provide insect resistance from corn rootworm is really helpful. And secondly, when we invest for something like this during the pre-planting phase, it actually helps to save our management costs later on. You can maybe avoid an insecticide spray, and you can save your time with that. Second one that I would like to caution the listeners today would be European corn borer. Although we had dealt with this problem earlier, and we really had a great solution in hand, and it was mostly solved, there have been some instances of resistance in European corn borer against Cry1F. Scientists in Ontario are studying it in greater depth, and we would have more credible information going forward. But in order to avoid any instances of high resistance from European corn borer, I would suggest clubbing the traits, and making it a point to include refuge and checking for the refuge in the bag, or planting a strip in the field in case you do not have the clarification on how much refuge is available in the bag. Western bean cutworm is another pest which has been predominant in the upper Midwest, and it results in other issues with ear rots and mycotoxins eventually. So going for those traits is helpful as well. Then black cutworm and corn earworm are the other few issues that need attention. The research also shows so this is a paper that we published recently, and the research shows that including the insect resistance in terms of more number of BT traits present in one hybrid can actually fare well for your field and can help decrease the insect damage severity in the field. All this information can actually be assessed very easily and in a very practical manner from the handy BT trait table compiled by Dr. Cristofonso and Pat Porter. And you'll find a video on this page as well where they explain you how to use this table. It's a very simple table, and it will save you a lot of time in your decision making. One thing I would like to caution everybody before moving ahead is nowadays, so be careful when you read the seed label, because Cry 34 and 35 AB1 is now GPP 34 AB1 and TPP 35 AB1. It's just a name change. It's the same. It has the same characteristics, and it provides resistance against corn rootworm. earlier, so this change was actually implemented last year. Most of the seed companies tried to update their packets, but most of them have not in 2024. But in 2025, we assume there will be a higher number of seed companies with a new labels. So just be careful when you pick your seed bag from there. So some of the issues that we have in Wisconsin and the upper Midwest are ear rots, tar spot, and this year we had southern corn rust. So a lot of seed companies provide us, with trade packages that provide somewhere from complete resistance to partial resistance for these diseases. And there have been studies which have shown some benefit of including disease resistance in your hybrid. However, it has always been seen that disease resistance performs better in combination with fungicide applications. So it can maybe, prevent or help you save one additional fungicide application, but I wouldn't say it will completely save you from the disease that you might be having in your field. But definitely, if you have a history of ear rots in your field, combining a disease resistance hybrid with crop rotation decisions, can help. Also, the same is the case with tar spot and with southern corn rust. Hopefully, we'll get a cool enough winter that we don't have same problem next year. So, with that, I would also like to touch a little bit upon organic corn. And as most of the people joining in today will be very well aware of the fact that, Wisconsin is one of the leading producers of organic corn in the country. And we are actually the top most producer for silage corn in terms of organic certified acres. When a grower looks for organic corn, yield is not at the top priority, but still we need to, have a little bit of a checklist on hand where we look at the rapid early growth and vigor, because it helps a better establishment of the stand and, would eventually help to have a healthier crop later on. Standability is very important, where we try to, go for the hybrids which do not green snap at V8 and we lose everything. Pest and disease resistance is tricky because sometimes you don't want to go for a GMO when you're, or a lot of times you don't want to go for a GMO when you are going for an organic corn. So combining your pest management with decisions such as, primarily crop rotation or residue management in a way where you reduce the inoculum right at the start of the growing season is something that can be looked at. Stress tolerant in terms of drought is important. And then all this eventually does come to yield potential, even though it's not the top priority for somebody who's growing organic corn, because they are targeting a premium market. Another point that I would like to bring the attention to is short corn, although not commercially available at this point from the mass production standpoint. It would be something that is coming up in recent future. However, there have been some studies around the Midwest where we have seen that, because with short corn, we are reducing the height of the plant, the ear height is also reducing, and there are some constraints that come with it in terms of yield numbers, because there are harvesting challenges as well. So this data that you're seeing here is the corn grain yield, and the study is a preliminary data from the study done at Purdue, and they have been seeing really strong correlations at one of the two locations. So this is like from two locations. One is like the northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and the other one is a little bit to the central and the south. We also had a trial with the silage corn, short corn in Wisconsin at Arlington, and we did observe some patterns where we compared short corn with dual, with BMR, and the tonnage that we did, the tonnage that we observed was only higher than the BMR. It wasn't as high as the dual, but this all is preliminary. I would just like to add that disclaimer, and we would have the more concrete information out very soon. However, with more replications coming up next year and the year after, by the time the seed is available commercially, you will have some solid information coming out from us. With this, I would like to summarize all the key factors that we need to look at while making some decisions in terms of our seed selection. So we need to look at high yield and quality both for grain and silage. We need to be, targeting that sweet spot of high tonnage, high quality as much as possible, and try not falling in other quadrants. We also have to have the relative maturity managed in a way that it's, it helps to realize the highest yielding potential of the region and of our field. Also, with silage hybrids, we, going for a dual versus just a primary silage hybrid might help your use case and flexibility. Trade packages, as we talked a little bit earlier, depends a lot on your field history, your pest pressure, and most of the time it is more wiser economic input as opposed to doing emergency insecticide sprays later on, which kind of adds an extra to your management costs. Agronomic traits in terms of disease and drought tolerant needs to be also decided on the basis of field history and experience. So overall, selecting a hybrid is a holistic decision where you look at all the corners of your all the corners of your story, and then try to see the portfolio that you have been building for all these years, and then investing the money on an important decision such as selecting a hybrid for your corn. And with that, I would like to thank some amazing people who helped me carry out the research trials and extension and convey the extension information to all of you during my very first year at UW-Madison. And with that, I will take any questions. Today, it's a recorded session, and I can take any questions that Josh has, or I will try to be on the live session next week, in 2 weeks as well, if somebody has any question at that time. Or there's my contact information on the screen. Just email me, text me, DM me on X, so I can try responding to your queries in my best capacity. Thank you.